Well, it's the next morning. I don't have a lot of time before I have to leave for work, but I wanted to try and just get the rest of these gears out of this deal here. So pretty much the further along I get, the easier they come out. There's the last two on that end. Now I should be able to just bring these over and turn them. Yep, take them out just like I thought. Alright, so that all worked out. So now there's this spacer right here. I gotta make sure that the spacer goes on the right hand side of that gear stack. Put this back together, and then there's nothing else on that side, and there's no spacer on that side. So now the lead screw will come out. Alright, I gotta go find a place to safely store the lead screw. Alright, now with all the gears out, I can bring this gear selector lever over and talk about how this basically works, but it's pretty simple. What you got is you got two little gears here. You got this gear right here. This gear will mesh with whichever one of these gears that were in that stack that I took out, it's in front of. It's locked in front of. And then that gear is constantly meshing with this little pinion gear, and this pinion gear is keyed to this lower shaft. So this shaft basically is always going to be running as long as the this shaft is always going to be running as long as the motor is running, or the clutch is engaged, I should say. And then well, actually, scratch that. I meant to say, depending on how that outer lever on that outer gearbox that I took off, what setting that's put in. In other words, the box that was right here with the lever on it. So, alright, so remember I wanted to take this gear off, but I couldn't see what held this gear on. It now seems to me that I can just leave that gear on and slide this entire shaft out of the box if I remove underneath all this grease. It looks like there's another one of those little nuts that need a spanner. In other words, right here underneath all this gunk, it looks like there's another one of these deals that I just unscrewed on the other end. This one's really, gunk on this one's really caked on there. Actually easy for me to just turn this gear on the other end, make this shaft rotate, shave some of this stuff off. Alright, so this one looks a little different than the other one. The other one had a hole on one side and a set screw. This one almost looks like there's a pin in there. I gotta clean that up really well, because I'm gonna make absolutely sure that there aren't any slots in the ends of these protrusions right here. Make sure they're not screws that I'm supposed to unscrew before I even think about trying to tap on one to see if it's a pin that goes through. Because the holes are opposite each other. I mean, well, it could go either way. It could be a pin, or that could be little nubs that you're supposed to grab onto to rotate this. Yeesh. Wish I knew. for sure. Just a little bit of this 3M foaming engine degreaser, because it really works well in getting this stuff to come off. It sprays out with such force, so I just gotta be real easy when I'm pressing the button so it doesn't go spraying everywhere. Just let that soak for a few seconds. And I'll try and wipe it. Yeah, it's doing a good job at that. Boy, if those are supposed to be sticking up far enough so you can grab onto them with some kind of a special wrench, they don't stick up much at all. Try and tap on one. Not with that huge hammer. Let me get a smaller hammer. That doesn't feel like it's doing anything. Let's see if I can't watch it as I tap it to see if it moves any. That ain't moving. I think it screws on. Well, I gotta go. Hopefully I can get back to this tonight. Well, back at it tonight, and I guess it should come as no big surprise that I wasn't able to find any answers as far as what I'm dealing with here. But the more closely I look at this, the more convinced I am that that is a pin that goes all the way through. And I'm wondering if it's a tapered pin. It's a little distorted on that side, and it's definitely peened over on this side. So my thinking is that maybe if I file this off, that I might be able to knock it out going in that direction. I just tried putting a wrench on here and turning it. Put quite a bit of force on there and it wouldn't turn. I actually think that tooth mark right there is my doing. Pipe wrench. Actually, yeah, these pliers were able to grip it because I was able to grab onto that little nub there. But that nub is about to go away. Hopefully, I know what I'm doing here, so grab a file. Alright, that may have been a miscalculation because right now I've got that filed off, and I'm starting to lose the little circle, which would indicate to me that that nub was just a raised bump on this steel here and not a pin. But one way to confirm that is, now that I'm pretty close to flush with the surface, if I hit this with the punch dead center, I should be able to make the circle reappear. Hard to say. Try hitting this side and seeing. I can see a ghost of a circle, but I don't really know if it's changing much from the way it was a second ago. Damn it. I almost broke my fluorescent light. Doesn't seem to be doing it. And the prize goes to... I was right. Sorry I didn't have the camera rolling when I did it, but I filed the other end a little bit. Just gave it a good smart couple of wraps with the punch and the ball peen, and it came sailing out. And I'm actually gonna... pretty sure I could see a taper on this pin. Yeah, it looks like it's tapered. I'll grab a mic real quick and check it out. Yeah, mystery solved. It's a tapered pin, so you can only drive it out in one direction. So that's what the deal was there. Now with that pin out, I'm thinking what I did was I've got my got my pipe wrench down this end, holding on to this gear shaft, and now with this on here, well, hopefully this will just unscrew. Oh, put my pipe wrench on the right way, that will help. Assuming this is regular lefty loosey righty tighty. There we go. Whew. Hey, you know what? That darn collar doesn't look like it's even threaded on. It's just kind of unscrewing because I'm turning in that direction, but I don't see any threads on that thing. I wonder why. It's not coming off anymore. What I need is a something to put in there that would create a wedging action. You can see those little wedge-shaped pieces that they sell that are designed to help remove the remove a drill chuck off of a mandrel. I forgot what they call them, but if I had one of those, slip that right in there and pop that right out. But since I don't have that, why don't I just, for giggles, see whether or not I can just punch. Alright, the memory in the Bloggy filled up, so we switch back to the Sony digital camera in movie mode, which gives us the lower resolution, so my apologies. Potato vision is engaged. Anyways, I just tapped on that shaft and that popped that collar off. Alright, so now I should be able to slide this shaft right on out with the gear still on it. But as I do that, I'm going to be careful to watch and see what happens in here, because I want to see, there's a gear that's in between like two fingers on this, and I wonder if that's going to just fall out. So, okay, it's coming out no problem. No reason to believe that that gear is going to stay put. That should fall out. No, it didn't. Not yet. Alright, so here's that assembly. And now I'm going to reach in here and see if that little gear, yeah, that gear wants to come out. Alright, so now I'm kind of curious about how you deal with this. Now that this has nothing to hold it in there, what's weird is that this handle actually looks like it's one piece. If I turn it on its side, that flat part looks like it would come out if it was disconnected on the inside here. But on the inside, I can't see how it's connected to that. Doesn't help that it's covered in a ton of grease. And that is just, at the moment, kind of keeping me a little bewildered. And this part here is brass. Actually, I think this might be brass too, and it's just so dirty. No, I don't think this is brass. No, that's, you can see it here. This is steel, and it's one piece. Yeah, all the way into there. So somehow this piece must slide out of that other piece that's in there. There's a screw. Yeah, that's what it is. We got a shot of this at the camera. You can see what amazing things I'm looking at. Okay, so here's that deal that slides back and forth. That small gear was sitting in here. Okay, and right when I flip this over, I just turned this completely over. So this is actually, I'm looking at the bottom of this now. There's actually a small square-headed bolt right here. And I'm betting that's what you got to loosen to pull this handle out of that assembly. Alright, I've got this bolt loose and nothing seems to be happening. So I'm taking the bolt all the way out so I can try and figure out. Well, that's a pretty long bolt. That bolt is going to act as just a set screw. So this should just be pulling out now. It's not.